The Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme for centuries, she is one of the few beings that Thanos waited to die before his quest to purge half of all life in the universe. If you're interested in seeing the other two beings in this legendary trio, you can check out our videos for the power of Ego, the living planet, as well as Odin, the Allfather, after this video. Now, of course, that is just a theory that Thanos waited for Odin, Ego, and the Ancient One to die. It's mostly just conjecture and coincidences, but it makes sense to me. Anyway, back to the video. Typically, we will discuss the strength, speed, durability, and then the other abilities of these characters, but because the Ancient One is so unique, I'm going to be discussing her physical abilities, her equipment, and then lastly her magical abilities. So with all of that out of the way, just how powerful is the Ancient One?
I know she's steadfast but unpredictable, merciless yet kind. She made me what I am. Trust your teacher.
Born centuries ago, all we know of her past is that she is of Celtic descent and eventually joined the ranks of the Masters of the Mystic Arts and eventually rose to become Sorcerer Supreme, where she monitored countless realities and protected hers from otherworldly threats and even on occasion, physical ones. Having studied the martial and mystic arts for hundreds, if not thousands of years, the Ancient One is, of course, a master of both. We see her immense hand-to-hand skill dwarf the skill of Kaecilius' Zealots, as she doesn't break a sweat defeating each and every one of them, while using fairly basic spells and being aware of her surroundings, which, of course, she is manipulating at will, but we'll get to that later. The specific martial art employed by the Ancient One doesn't actually exist in the real world and was created specifically for this film, so undoubtedly if she came across someone like Captain America, Black Widow, or even someone like Taskmaster who can learn and adapt to fighting styles on the fly, they would have serious trouble with someone who's perfected an ancient martial art unknown to the world. It's unlikely that the Ancient One would even need to employ magic to defeat the street-level heroes and villains. Not only is the Ancient One a master of her own body, which can be used as a lethal weapon, she also has complete knowledge and mastery of the enchanted and magical weapons contained within the various sanctums, such as the Eye of Agamotto, the Staff of the Living Tribunal, and the Arrow of Apollon. With this vast arsenal, there really isn't a situation where she could find herself in without a handy solution. During the filming of the movie, the choreographers worked hard with actress Tilda Swinton to convey that the Ancient One is so skilled that she doesn't even need to try. Everything looks very casual to her because it is. These moves have been ingrained into her over hundreds of years, and there's nothing she's not prepared for or hasn't seen before. Not only does she have mastery over these ancient magical relics, she has mastery over something even more powerful, the Time Stone. With it, the Ancient One has visited the future and studied it to be prepared for any and everything. She knows exactly who Doctor Strange is before he even sets foot in Kamar-Taj. Her knowledge in the MCU is unparalleled in this way, and you may be wondering if the Ancient One has this mastery over time and has seen Doctor Strange's meteoric rise to become the greatest Sorcerer Supreme of all time, why is it that she let Kaecilius do what he did? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. She saw that this is what needed to happen for Doctor Strange to become the man who was instrumental in the defeat of Thanos and the salvation of the universe. While this ability is impressive, she doesn't have exact knowledge of every event in the future. The scope and details of the future are very limited. For instance, she didn't know that Strange gave the Time Stone to Thanos, and she also didn't know the exact circumstances of her death. And she claims that she couldn't see any further than her death, although I don't believe that to be true because she knows that Doctor Strange is the greatest Sorcerer Supreme of all time, and she wouldn't know that unless she saw past her death, so maybe she was, fudging the truth a little bit. So while it's pretty obvious that she is able to see into the future and has a general overview of what will happen, the specifics can elude her. It also seems that she has limited time control even without the use of the Eye of Agamotto, as when she was in her astral form, she was able to slow down one moment into 1,000, something no one else had shown the ability to do in their astral form or otherwise. And speaking of her astral form, the Ancient One has the ability to project her spirit out of her body and into an astral plane, which is just an alternate dimension that is sort of aligned with our own. While in this astral form, the physical limitations of her body are tossed aside and she can move freely throughout this dimension without anything impeding her. But if need be, she can still interact with the physical world. This ability makes her extremely dangerous, as she could easily use her astral form to battle her opponents without them ever being able to detect or interact with her spirit. Although there is a downside to this. If her astral form has been projected out, her body is left limp and lifeless until she returns to it. Not only this, but others who have mastered this ability can interact with her spirit, and it's implied that the Soul Stone is able to detect the astral form as well. Not only can she project her own astral form, but she can push the astral form out of others, which, without countermeasures, is pretty much a one-hit knockout. She first displays this ability against Doctor Strange to help him get out of his stubborn mindset, and she was later able to send his consciousness to many other dimensions throughout the multiverse, which could very easily be used offensively. Simply send someone's consciousness out of their body and into another dimension, never to return. The next time she uses this ability is against the Incredible Hulk, who, despite being a physically powerful being within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, had no defense against the Ancient One's attack. Of course, the Ancient One has access to more than just these few abilities. She also has mastery of the entire library of mystical arts. As she explains to Doctor Strange, the language of the mystic arts is as old as civilization. The sorcerers of antiquity called the use of this language spells. But if that word offends your modern sensibilities, you can call it a program, the source code that shapes reality. We harness energy drawn from other dimensions of the multiverse to cast spells, to conjure shields, and weapons to make magic. These physical manifestations are typically referred to as eldritch weapons. While these can be manifested in multiple forms, such as whips and swords, the Ancient One prefers Tau Mandalas as her primary weapon. This option allows her to seamlessly transition between offense and defense, as her fans can be used as shields or offensive weapons. If her mandalas just won't cut it, she can conjure much larger shields, which she does to block an attack from the arrow of Apollon. Additionally, we've seen her cause explosions with eldritch magic and create what I guess are sort of illusions, which I'm assuming can become more elaborate than what she showed to Bruce Banner. These quote-unquote illusions can also be interacted with, as she is able to change them at will, and even Bruce Banner's astral form is able to interact with said illusions. It's also a safe assumption that she has access to all of the spells that Doctor Strange uses during Infinity War and Endgame, as she is the Sorcerer Supreme and a master of the mystic arts. She also has telekinetic abilities that she can use without weaving hand signs, which she's shown multiple times. As a practitioner of the mystic arts, she is also equipped with a sling ring, which can open portals to anywhere in the world and even to other dimensions. Sling rings can be used for travel or for combat, as shown by Wong and Doctor Strange during the events of Infinity War. If the Ancient One is ever found in a situation where she is ill-equipped to deal with a threat, she can always use the sling ring to grab any of the ancient relics she may need to better suit her current situation. Or if she finds herself completely outmatched, she can simply summon the mirror dimension and escape using her sling ring, as she states this is a typical response to many threats. And speaking of the mirror dimension, it is sort of similar to the astral plane, as it is a dimension aligned with our own, but it mirrors ours and cannot be physically interacted with. The Ancient One has the ability to either summon the mirror dimension as a single wall, like Doctor Strange does against Thanos, or she can summon it as an entire enclosure, trapping her target within the dimension. If simply trapping her opponent isn't her goal, she can also fight them within the mirror dimension, giving her a massive advantage. In this dimension, she has the ability to bend reality at will. She can alter gravity or her surroundings at a whim and do so continuously without much effort. Her complete mastery of this ability allows her to fold entire cities, distort reality, and defy gravity while simultaneously fighting off Kaecilius and his Zealots. However, her ability to do so is not something that anyone can learn. To perform these insane feats within the mirror dimension, she siphons power from Dormammu's dark dimension, something that she forbids others to do. Not only does she amplify her own abilities with the power of the dark dimension, she also passively extends her life with this dark power as well. Her complete mastery of this ability is also far above the Zealots. As she was able to perform the ritual alone, she can siphon from the dark dimension at will, and she has defended herself from Dormammu's influence for years while doing so. Meanwhile, the Zealots' appearances permanently changed, and they were eventually turned into mindless ones after being absorbed into the dark dimension. While the Ancient One only folds matter within the mirror dimension, those who have performed the ritual of Cagliostro have the ability to bend reality to their will outside of the mirror dimension as well. So assuming that she was in a situation where she could let loose completely, this is something she could do. It's also implied that the Ancient One enhances her physical abilities with her magic as well, as she easily overpowers the Zealots when they attempt to pull her down by the ankles, and she's completely unaffected by the extreme temperature at the peak of Mount Everest, while Doctor Strange was freezing almost immediately. This wouldn't be out of the ordinary for practitioners of the mystic arts, as Pangborn uses magic to walk around and Strange uses magic to steady his fingers. How physically powerful the Ancient One can become is unknown, but it wouldn't be insane to assume that her physical body could become as powerful as the spells she can cast, and even more so when siphoning power from the dark dimension. And that's about it for the Ancient One. Overall, she was one of the most powerful beings that we know of within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and only died because she underestimated Kaecilius' ruthlessness. Her mastery of Eldritch magic, time itself with the Time Stone, and the ability to bend space and time at will make her a formidable opponent, one that Thanos would likely not defeat alone. To defeat the Ancient One, I believe Thanos would need pretty much every one of the Infinity Stones. He would need the Reality Stone to counter her own reality warping abilities, and to be honest, it probably wouldn't work that well as she's much more experienced at doing so. He would need the Time Stone so that she doesn't have it to use against him. You would need the Soul Stone to keep track of her astral form. You would need the Space Stone to counter her ability to warp space, and maybe even the Power Stone to get past her magical defenses. The Mind Stone would be pretty useless, as she was able to defend against Dormammu's mind intrusions for hundreds of years. But what do you guys think? Is the Ancient One truly as powerful as I believe she is, or is she overhyped? Let me know who you think could stand a chance against her down in the comments, and also let me know who you'd like to see a video on next. Be sure to follow us on all the social media that you see on screen. Remember to like and subscribe. It does really help us out. And if you want to support the channel directly, consider becoming a member. That's all I've got for you guys today. Again, let me know what you think down in the comments. And remember the motto, it's the Ancient One over everything. And I'll see you guys next time.